Let's get started. Again, warmly welcome to this webinar today on how to implement reuse food packaging at events. This webinar is funded by the Interreg Baltic Sea region project Change Now. So we are very happy to have so many participants across different countries participating today. So welcome wherever you sit in the different countries. Before we dive into today's program, I just briefly want to present us. My name is Mads Oland Andersen. I'm a strategic designer and project manager here in Gate 21. And today I have my colleague, Nicole, with me.
Yes, my name is Nicole, and I'm also a project manager at Gate 21, and we are part of the Change Now project.
And in Gate 21, we are sitting in Denmark, and on a daily basis, we work together with Danish municipalities, companies, universities across Denmark, but also internationally, like in this project, to accelerate the circular transition. And also in terms of this project, we have been applied to be a part of this, helping pilot partners initiate these new reuse systems that we are going to learn more about today. So very warm welcome. And if you are willing to do so, please write in the chat where you come from so we can check in that way. First of all, a little house rules here at this webinar. Most of you have already done so, and we are really good at that after Corona times. But please mute your microphone during this webinar because we are a lot of people today. And then, of course, very importantly, use the chat for questions. If you have something, it's really good for us to have you tip in, because that we are going to use your great questions later on in the panel discussion. Slides will be shared afterwards, so we will make sure to share that through your email address. And of course, also if you missed a point or want to share it with some colleagues or collaborators, this webinar will be recorded and shared afterwards as well. Some highlights about the Change Now project. In essence, this project is about creating a mindset change from single-use to circular or multiple-use food delivery systems in cities of the BSR. And the way the project has worked with this is to shift food delivery systems from single-use to reuse packaging by testing and also piloting new solutions in real life. And this is what we are going to hear about today as well. And last but not least, a very big part of this project is to transfer knowledge and tools to mainstream these new systems also outside of the project. So we really want to share all the great knowledge that is created through these pilot tasting throughout the cities. In this project, there is 23 project partners and 14 associated organizations, and it's both municipalities and regional actors from 8 Baltic Sea region countries. And we have as much as 18 different pilots across 9 pilot locations. So it's a very vast project. Today, we of course gonna hear from 3 great pilots and their experiences, lessons learned, and then we're going to dive into the different aspects of how to make the reuse system work. So first of all, convenience and communication. How do we make the guests of these new reuse systems actually use the system? How do you collaborate with the stakeholders and coordinate to make these systems work? And also the finance and cost of the new system. How do you build a reuse system that is actually financially viable? So that is some of the themes that we're going to touch upon in the later discussion. To get everyone on the same page, I just have a brief definition of what we mean when we say packaging reuse. It refers broadly to delivery models in which a single package achieves multiple trips, rotations, or uses for the same purpose for which it was originally used. And this is distinct from recycling, where we circle an entire product instead of actually recycling the materials. So this is just to get everything on board, what we mean when we say reuse packaging. So before I give the word to the first pilot, I want to invite you to write in the chat what, from your experience, what are the biggest challenge when working with or wanting to work with reusable packaging and reuse system at events. So from your experience, what are the biggest challenges? We will use some of these inputs later on in the chat. So please share your experience. Today, we have a great panel on board. Thank you so much for being here today, all of you. First of all, we have Elena, who is a PhD candidate from Kiel University. Then we have Emils from Riga City Council. He is a chief project manager there and been responsible for their pilot. Then we have Thiele, who is a project manager in the city of Tallinn, who's also been in charge of their pilot. And then last but not least, we have Fritjof, who is a project manager at Green Events Hamburg. So a very warm welcome to all four of you. We are very happy to have you on board. So I will give the word to Thiele, who will present her pilot, their pilot, and I will change the slides as you say, Thiele.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone, from Tallinn, from my side. My name is Thiele. I'm project manager in Tallinn in Circular Economy Department in Tallinn City. And today I will briefly explain the reuse packaging system that was used at the Estonian Song and Dance Festival in Tallinn last summer. It was a very large cultural festival that lasts 4 days, and before the celebration even starts, there are around 1 week for rehearsals. So it's I'd say mega event, bringing together tens of thousands visitors per day. And as it's a cultural event, the visitors are very the variety is very wide. So there are young people, there are children, there are elderly people, there are foreigners, tourists, but there are also local people. So everyone will gather there. Estonia already has experience with reuse systems at public events, and we have several providers that offer the full system. In Estonia, a national regulation requires to use reusable packaging at public events. So the song and dance celebration is one good example of how this can work out in very large scale. The goal at this event for our perspective was not to test if reuse is possible, but to organize the system smoothly and make sure the return system works efficiently throughout the festival. You can make it's the next one, yeah. At the event, all food vendors used reusable packaging from one service provider, which was called Ringo Eco in this event. And this included drinking cups, food containers, bowls, plates, and also reusable plastic cutlery. And one important point is that all vendors had to use the same system. The system was centralized, which means one company handles the packaging collection, washing, and redistribution for the whole event. Next slide, please. The system itself was quite simple. First, Ringo delivered clean, reusable packaging to the event. Ringo already knew the approximate need of all food providers, how many dishes they need, what type of dishes they need. Then food vendor collected the packaging from Ringo and paid the service fee. When visitor bought food or drink, they paid €2 deposit for a packaging. After using it, they returned the dish to Ringo return point and got their deposit back. Visitor could receive a return in cash or by card, and they also had the opportunity to donate the deposit to charity. After collection, Ringo washed the packaging and returned it again during the event. And at the end of the event, Ringo calculated how many clean return dishes were returned by the catering providers and how many were returned by visitors, and then they calculated the number, how many dishes were missing. Each food container and drinking cup in Ringo system is equipped with QR code, which allows Ringo to see which vendor received the item and if it's returned. The last slide, please. Reusable system can work even at a very large event, but only if the system is well organized. The main challenge I point out was managing the return points during the peak times, because they got quite messy, and making sure all vendors followed the rules. Most important success factors I'd point out would be in mega event there has to be one certain centralized service provider, and the participation from food vendors has to be mandatory. There has to be simple deposit system for visitors, and maybe it's a bit cliche to say, but good communication between organizers and the vendors and the two visitors, so they all have the same information how the system works. So the main recommendation from this pilot is that the reusable packaging system should be mandatory and centralized at very large events. Voluntary systems are usually much harder to scale efficiently. That's from my side.
Thank you, Tile. Very interesting to learn from your experiences, also what worked and what maybe you pose challenging. So if we should look at your pilot and from your experience, if you should do it again, maybe next year's Song and Dance Festival, what would you do differently if you were to do a reuse system again next year?
Yeah, I can invite you to the next event because
please do so.
yes, but in 2028.
Okay.
Yeah, but it certainly will be the next one and the next after that. But the main thing I would improve is the return flow during the peak times. We need to make return packaging faster and easier, the returning process faster and easier. Maybe there should be more the return points. So we should increase the return rate. Yeah. And avoid long queues, and yeah, that would be some, I think, to improve.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So we will maybe dive a little more into that also in the later discussion.
Yeah, there are some questions for you too, but we will go through them after the other presentations.
Yes. Yeah. But for now, thank you for this great overview. I will give the word to the next pilot, which is Fritjof from Green Events Hamburg. You are muted, Fridtjof. Yeah.
Hello, thank you very much. And first of all, I want to say that we had a renaming. We are now called Network Green Events. And yeah, we are a small NGO from Hamburg, and we work on sustainable measures for events, and we consult event organizers. So if this sounds interesting to you, please feel free to check our website. But now I want to deep dive in our pilot where we focused on reusable packaging. Please, the next slide. Oh, sorry, I also pressed the next slide. So I will present briefly about the Euro fan zone with public viewing in Hamburg. That was the pilot was conducted in 2024. It was a large-scale event, so 30 days, public, and more than 600,000 visitors, mainly international soccer fans. And yeah, there was all in all, there were 380,000 drinks sold in reusable packaging and 30,000 dishes. So it was really large scale. And about the packaging, so there were different types: bowls, plates, snack bowls, etc., hot drinks, cold drinks. So I would say the whole range. There were two different service providers. So the packaging was slightly different. The gray packaging you can see on the pictures was made out of bio-based circular plastic, and the other one from polypropylene. This is more the classic material, I would say, and we had no labeling or coding. And yeah, so this is how the system worked. First of all, I want to say in the middle, you can see a whole bunch of different...
Fridtjof, are you changing the slides yourself? Or
yes, I am.
I will go to the next. I think you are talking about the system, how it works now, right?
Sorry, you can't see when I change the slides?
No, we can see the slide where you highlight the value chain now.
Okay, perfect. All right. So in the middle, you can see a whole bunch of different stakeholders. So I just want to emphasize that we as Network Green Events were accompanying the event organizer and consulting the event organizer and the sustainable lead, but we did not conduct the pilot ourselves. And there were service providers. There was an overall lead by the Hamburg Tourism Association. So yeah, it was a multi-stakeholder project, and we were one part of it. And the system worked. I will start on the upper left side because reuse was mandatory. It was part of the contract of the stand operators, so everyone had to use the reuse system. There was an online ordering system, so stand operators were able to order the amount of packaging they were in need of, and the system was subsidized by the city of Hamburg. So it was able to hand out packaging that was not more cost intensive than single-use packaging for the stand operators. And yeah, then the system service provider, Sustable, transported the needed packaging to the event. It was distributed to the stand operators. They handed it out to the guests, and with a deposit and a token, there were green volunteers on site who guided the visitors, because it was an international event, so there were not everyone was familiar with the reuse system, and they helped to organize on site where to return the dishes and the cups. For example, at the central return station or directly back to the stand where they bought the dishes or the drinks. That worked quite well. And after every day, the packaging was collected and transported to the local cleaning facility. It was only 3 or 4 kilometers away from the event, and then cleaned, and the system circle is completed. Yeah, next slide, please.
It is on, yeah.
It's on? Okay.
Yeah.
I still see the other slide. Yeah, what made it possible? I would say, or I agree with Tele, binding sustainable criteria or a mandatory reuse system and extensive communication online, on site, with the visitors, but also with stand operators and with green volunteers for the visitors. And yeah, support from the city also helped a lot to conduct the pilot. Yeah, so much. If you have questions, feel free. Thanks.
I'm sure that and also please invite us if you're having a European Championship in football next time in Germany. But I think that's a long ways down the road, maybe. But
yes.
So interesting to hear about your experiences, Fritjof. Thank you for that. The same question for you as Tele. If now we talked a little bit about it already, but from your experience looking back at the pilot, it was the first time you had a reuse system at this scale. What would you do differently if you could change something the next time?
Yeah, I would say so. I said the reusable system was mandatory, but there were some exceptions from it. So it was allowed to use paper wrappings, etc. And the stand, which is fine in general, but the stand operators were quite creative to use this exception. So this led to only 30,000 dishes sold in comparison with the 380,000 drinks. So a lot of them avoided the reusable packaging for food. This could maybe be adjusted in the future. And we had some problems with the deposit system because first there was no token. So you could just return a cup and get back €2 in cash. And this led to like sort of a professional deposit collection. And yeah, so collectors were getting very pushy to visitors, and that was a bit too much. So there were tokens introduced that worked well, but I think could be improved, maybe with a digital payment or deposit option, something like this.
Fritjof, why did you decide to have these exceptions? Why was there also the possibility to use paper packaging? What was the reason?
Yeah, from an ecological perspective, very thin, uncoated paper wrappings are less resource intensive than a reusable plate. But this leads to a system with different options for visitors, different options for stand operators, and it makes it more complicated. And I would say to make the system more convenient and to make it easier, it would be better to just focus on a reusable system and but in general, it's a small paper wrapping is, from an ecological aspect, not too bad.
Thank you, Fritjof. And we will also dive much more into the specific questions as we go into the discussion later. But for now, I will give the word to the last pilot partner today, Emils. The floor is yours.
Yep. Hi. I guess, can you go to the next slide? There's still...
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Then today I will present a pilot initiative implemented during the Riga City Festival on August 16th, held along the Viemsānoja Krasmala in Riga. This was a large-scale two-day public event attracting around 60,000 visitors, including families, young people, and elderly. It is typically a multi-location event that stretches through 2 to 3 neighborhoods. Food and beverages were widely available, including both hot and cold drinks, making it an ideal testing ground for reusable cup systems. The main goal of this pilot was to evaluate how practical and societally acceptable a reusable cup deposit system was in a large urban event. You can go to the next slide. Thanks. For the pilot, reusable plastic cups were made from polypropylene, and the key features included cups designed for multiple reuse cycles, transparent design with different labeling, and some cups were even trackable, allowing insight into circulation. These characteristics made them suitable for testing both operational feasibility and environmental impact. So you can go to the next slide. Yes, so the system followed a decentralized deposit model. Here you can see the operational flow in which each vendor provided their own reusable cups. In some cases, these were ordered from an operator. In total, there were 2 operators used in the event, and some had their own cups. So a customer paid a €2 deposit when purchasing drinks, and cups had to be returned to the same vendor stand to receive the deposit back, and afterwards you get the system repeat. While simple to implement, the structure already revealed both strengths and limitations. I mentioned before that this was a multiple location event, but only one of these locations was piloted because there was a large resistance from other municipal departments, and this change was seen as an extra workload that wasn't there before. Therefore, the simplest version of a deposit cup system was introduced in this case. You can move to the next slide. So why was this pilot initiated in the first place? The initiative was driven by new city regulations banning single-use cups at public events. It was also supported by broader political goals and collaboration with international partners on deposit cup systems in this Change Now project. The main challenge was everything connecting to getting back your deposit. Queues at return points, often mixing with purchase lines, made it difficult. Payments were often cashless, but deposits were refunded in cash, which made also a bit disturbance for visitors. And the return where you bought it rule was inconvenient for visitors moving across different event areas, because even in the Viemsānoja Krasmala, their area was still stretched for like a kilometer or a bit less maybe. However, even these challenges, there was truly a good return percentage, which created a significant reduction in single-use plastic waste and showed that the deposit cup systems had a strong public support. What I recommend is to take action, even if it's not perfect and you realize it's not perfect. There's always a starting point, and from practice, everyone learns and adapts. I guess that's it from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Emils. It sounds really interesting because your system is a little different than the 2 previous ones, as it's decentralized, and it's also has tested, you know, the role of the vendors and how that would work in practice. So from your experience, it might make sense to look at it differently next time you are to implement these kind of reuse system. Would there be any changes here? Would you still go for the decentralized system, or would it be another direction?
Yeah, well, it probably will be another direction because based on the pilot results, there are 3 key improvements we would introduce. As you said, we would move to a centralized system, since there were some unhappy visitors that we were brought to our notion, and introduce digital or cashless deposit refunds to make the deposit receiving back much easier, and improve visitor experience in general. And this is something we are already working on this year, and even going bigger in the way that each location in the Riga City Festival will be a part of the centralized return system.
So you actually are continuing the work and implementing a revised system for this year's event?
Yes, because also every engaged party in the municipal side also saw the kind of challenges that were faced with the decentralized system. So everyone is already aboard this year that the move forward is the centralized system and a more structured idea of it.
Great. Congratulations on continuing the journey. We're very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
So before we go to the panel discussion, I want to introduce you to the last person from our panel, Elena from Kiel University. Your role in this project has been a little different because you are doing your PhD on this project. So what I would like to ask you is, when you look through your work on the different cities and events, what are the most important similarities or differences between how the reuse system have been implemented across? We already saw some. And the second question for you would be, what seems to be the most critical success factor when making reuse system work in practice? So I will let you have a word on that.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Maybe I will start with the differences, actually. So I think they come already from the events themselves and the context they operate in. So it makes different if you have a large-scale event, if you have a small-scale event, also the type. For example, we had a running event as a pilot. Of course, there the system looks different than, for example, we already also had a pilot in Copenhagen with a very sophisticated system combined with the city system. So the systems can look very different in relation to where they are implemented. And also another aspect is how established reuse already is in the city or the country. So for example, in some cities, reuse for cups is already quite common and not a big deal or anymore. So people are used to it and people are fine using it. And maybe the next step is how to implement reuse of food, or how to best optimize the system in relation of logistics or return, etc. And in other cities, it's a first step to implement reuse for cups, for example. So they have different challenges, but they also have some shared implications, I would say, no matter how large scale or small scale events are, maybe coming to what are success factors or similarities. So as I said, the optimal system can look different, but we definitely saw across the pilots that a shared system with shared infrastructure and centralized returns, for most cases, the way to go, because it definitely increases the convenience for end users and also for the stand operators, because they don't have to handle the return. So a shared system is usually the way to go, and you have to ensure a certain level of convenience for the end users, for them to accept the system. But we could see that in many cases, if the convenience was given to a certain level, then visitors were actually fine with using the system. And for example, sometimes they were even very happy about very easy return. For example, return machine in Hamburg that we tested. We even got visitors saying, "Oh my God, this is so nice. Now it makes it like it's fun to return cups." So as long as the convenience is given, most visitors are quite fine with using reusables. And also the experience from the different countries shows that habits can change. As I mentioned, that in sometimes cups are already quite normal and common. Then What we also saw that communication is a very relevant support mechanism for the systems to work and to make it convenient. So visitors have to understand that it is a deposit system and also where to return, for example, and also the communication with the stakeholders, for example, state operators, to get them committed. This is also a relevant aspect. What we see central barriers that remain are the financing and also availability of infrastructure. In some places, this still is an issue and not always easy to solve. But one aspect that come into place here is regulation and standardization. So with scale and with more and more events using reusables, this becomes at least less of a problem. And also we saw that public support is very crucial and can have a very big effect on the implementation of reusables at event. And what my colleagues already mentioned, that the mandatory implementation at the events of reusables is very crucial for it to actually be used. Yeah, maybe for now.
Great, thank you, Elena, for the great pointers. So, before we dive into the discussion here, again, if you have some questions, I'd see that there's a lot coming in already in the chat. We will try to get an overview of all of them, as many as possible. But please write it in the chat if you have something to add, a question or problem or challenge. Then we will try to answer them during the discussion. So for now, I will stop sharing my screen here, so we can see everybody a little better, hopefully. And to kick things off, I think what we already touched a little bit upon is the convenience and the communication and the essential of actually succeeding with this in order for people, guests, to actually use the system and return the packaging, not least. So, Fritjof, you talked a little bit about the challenges going from, international guests that hadn't already any experience with the system. I think a lot of the other events also had international guests. But from your experience, how did you design for convenience, and how did you make it easy for participants to actually do the right thing? So please raise your hands if you have something to add to that.
The question was addressed to me, right? Or
it could be, yeah,
to all of us.
You chip in and the others come along. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the fan zone, I would say we made it as convenient as possible with the option to have a central return station. So guests could give back their deposit not only at the stand, but also at a easy accessible accessible return station, and there were no queues or lines, so that this was good. Also, there was on-site support with the green volunteers that helped a lot for the international guests. And I would add that it is very important that stand operators are on board and exactly know how the system works. So because they are in first contact with the guests, and they should give briefly the information what to do, and then it's most likely to work.
I think it's very interesting with these green volunteers. It's a good idea. Do you think it would the results of the reuse system, the success of the reuse system would have been different if there were no green volunteers?
I would say so, but in this case, really because it was international, there were a lot of guests not familiar with the system, and they were about to throw away packaging in the waste bins, or would like to take the packaging with them, even if it was not labeled or something. But yeah, this helped a lot. And one thing I would like to share as well here, I put it in the chat. We have a small video documentary about this pilot, and there the green volunteers are interviewed. So maybe this is worth a look.
Very nice.
Thank you. And Thiele, I know. Okay, yeah, Emil, go first. You have your hand. And
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Fritjof already said, that I think it's convenient to also give like different options for the deposit. So in terms of like to donate to a specific cause or to the event itself, which is I think also a very good practicality to add to make it more convenient.
thank you, Emil. Thiele, we know that you also have been working at making the system convenient through different communications efforts. So can you maybe point out what you did in terms of communication to maybe both the stakeholders, but also specifically the guests at the event?
Yes, before the event even hadn't started, we released a social media video where we explained all the green aspects of this event, not only reusables but others too. We recommended visitors to arrive by bike, for example, and all other aspects. But what makes the Ringo system convenient? I can bring out that the return can be done after the event also, because Ringo has some return points in our city, several places. So visitors had the opportunity to return the dishes after. That's maybe the thing.
Yeah,
which
so
makes
a
it more
possibility of
convenient.
actually returning it after the event has been.
There's a question whether you have like posters in each stand about how to return and how to use the system.
Yes, Ringo itself has worked out a certain system descriptions which each vendor have to use next to its stand. And of course, all the employees also give the explanations. And we also had volunteers in this mega event. And if somebody had any kind of question, the volunteers helped.
Okay, so you also used a similar model as Fritjof.
Yes.
Perfect. I think Elena has something to add to this discussion as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in a little point about posters, etc. Just one thing that I wanted to mention, that we definitely saw that, of course, was relevant for people to have the ability to inform themselves, but they are often not really noticed by visitors. So even, for example, on the return machine, when there's text, people don't use it, don't read it. So you really have to work with very flashy or pictograms, etc., because text is not really read by visitors, and this even makes the communication at the point of sale from the staff even more relevant.
Yeah, so that also has to do with the convenience of what are the type of system and the how to inform the guests in the best way. We have limited time, we know that already, and our focus is easily directed differently. So thank you for that. There is a question in the chat for Thiele and maybe also the others. How did you use the tracking QR code? Did you track deliveries to individual vendors?
So each reuse package has a QR code on it. And when a visitor buys food or drink, the QR code is scanned together with the deposit payment. And when the visitor returns the package, the QR code is scanned again, and the deposit is refunded. So the system helps Ringo to track which packaging goes to which food vendor. And thanks to the QR code, Ringo has an overview of every item, where it's given out and whether it's returned or not. Does it explain?
Thank you. Do any of your other guys have something to add to this? How did you work with the tracking of return? No. All right. So in terms of we have touched a little bit on that earlier, but in terms of working together with the different stakeholders, I would like to ask a question in terms of how did you involve all the different actors, municipalities, organizers, vendors, all these actors that you already mentioned in the system? How did you collaborate with them in order for you to organize this new reuse system, and what were sort of the starting point? How would you recommend others to get that started in order to collaborate? Also, if you are not actually the part of and the owner of the system, like in Fritjof's example. So anyone wants to tip in with how you collaborated the different actors through both before the event, but also maybe during and after the event to make it a success?
I guess for before the event, at least in our case, maybe that's why we also had a good return percentage. Was like open discussions with each side. We didn't really we kind of introduced ourselves to each side separately, and then we just sat on a complete table all together and kind of discussed the differences that everyone sees, or some other minor adjustments to be made. And I think that is the best version of how to like deal with these situations. And we have also continued to do so. We had a few open seminars after the event as well to kind of showcase the results we had. And this is the way we have kind of got to this point that everybody understands that the centralized system is better, and that the future should be more structured and organized than more not chaotic and like separate. So I think that's the best like way, just to communicate openly and with most parties, as much parties as possible.
So as I understand it from your answer is that you actually work together with the different actors in also communicating that this is a pilot, this is something that we do to learn and to make a better system next year. Is that rightly understood?
Yeah, that was also the point that we discussed to them, and they were all open for it. And we have like a large beer distributor that is actually a bit step forward, that has already bought their own cups in a large scale. And when they have their own kind of event where there's only the only vendor is them, they kind of create their own system already for like a private event. So there's a lot of players that already on roll with this reusable cup system, and that's great to see as well.
So this is also to do with both, adjusting afterwards. As you mentioned, this is a longer process. We don't make the reuse system that works in the first try, but we know that there's something that needs to be adjusted later on. And then, as I hear you say, it's also to do with the ownership throughout the different actors. They feel like they are a part of this system.
Exactly, yeah, because the vendor that I mentioned, he's already pretty proud about the results he has had in private events, and he really sees probably also in costs that it's cheaper to do so for them in the long run. So
perfect. Thank you, Emils.
In the chat, there is an example from Annika. She's from the city of Rupnik. I hope I have pronounced that right. She mentioned that it's a challenge of awareness, even though if there's a law against using single-use packaging. So I was just wondering, Fritjof, you had this mandatory system. So how did you communicate and coordinate with your stakeholders they had to know that it's a mandatory system. So how did you do that?
Yes, so we did that, or more the sustainable lead and the agency did that with our consultation right from the beginning. So even when they tendered the event to an event organizer, they were setting criteria that it should be in this and that regard a sustainable event. And then the event organizer was obliged to conduct measures in this regard. And from this point on, we were in contact with everyone to make an initial concept. So this was like the basis for everyone. We made a proposal, like a mandatory reuse system and this packaging that should not be used should be included in this concept. Can you all agree with that? And then there were, of course, different perspectives and different contents that were added, but I think this was most important, so that we had a basis where every stakeholder was fine with, and then the organizer was able to go to the stand operators and say, these are our conditions. We have to conduct it in this way, and we would be happy if you still would like to be part of this event. So yeah, it was mandatory and like described from the beginning, and I think this was important to get everyone on board and that everyone knows what to expect and what to do.
Great. So now we have dived into the convenience and communication, the collaboration with different stakeholders. Now we are getting to the hard part. So what we heard from at least Fritjof and also the others, that there is something about the financing and the cost of these new reuse systems. We have an example from Hamburg where it's subsidized, so it's not an extra cost for the different vendors and different stakeholders. But if you should look at from your experience, what does it take to make these reuse systems financially viable? How should the pricing be? What should the different cost structures look like? I know it's a difficult one.
In Estonian case, the service was partly subsidized by the event organizer. But yes, the money part is difficult, and the vendors mostly aren't happy with the system, even it's mandatory in Estonia. They try to find ways to sneak around regulation quite often.
Mm-hmm. And do you see anything that needs to change, or do you think that the solution is just more operators joining the system?
We already have quite many operators, and I think we don't have space in our market to new ones. But actually, I don't have the good solution here.
No. Jeff, did you have any inputs?
Sorry?
Yes, so maybe on two different levels. So first, I would say from an like a national market perspective, it is a problem that single-use packaging is too cheap, and the more reusable packaging is used, the cheaper it gets. So there's just a gap of scale, and it would be, first of all, important that, for example, there's a national or a local regulation that more reusable packaging is used, that scale goes up, and that service providers can provide it cheaper. And I would say the trend goes in this direction. So it is a good advice to check maybe every year the conditions, because they are changing and the gap between single-use and reusable packaging is decreasing. Maybe it would also be a good idea to make single-use more expensive, but yeah,
Yes.
okay. But on an event organizer perspective, it's also a good idea to calculate what you can or what costs you can prevent when switching to a reusable system. So for example, I put it in the chat, at the fan zone, there was approximately 15 tons of plastic waste prevented. And this is quite a lot. And this is also something to consider when calculating the costs, because it is, yeah, you don't have to order your, what is it called, local waste collector that often, and you don't have to clean the event site that often, and guests are coming to your event with a better feeling because it's clean. So these are things to consider that, yeah, makes it maybe more, yeah, that makes the gap smaller between the single-use and reusable costs. Yeah.
Thank you, Fridtjof. One last minute for Emil, and then I have to wrap up before we go. So Emil, go for some last great pointers on this.
Yeah, just to kind of add on the scale part, that you also have to understand that from a business side, like from the operator that gives these reusable cups or maybe other food containers as well, is to actually they profit from not returning those deposit cups. So their kind of perfect way to earn money is if everybody would just buy them and not give them back, and so they have a larger profit. But of course, most of these businesses come to this space in the mind for environmental reasons. So hopefully they're not like doing this for just the money side of it. But it's also good to remember to maybe add a percentage that you would like to see to be returned, to kind of make it more scalable and doable in the future.
Thank you, Emil, for these great points. Like, we could talk about this for a long time, but we are running out of time. So thank you so much for the great inputs and questions. The last thing I want to mention here is a great offer for you guys. I hope you can see my screen now. If you want to continue this discussion and to get started yourself, we have an offer for you to get a one-on-one coaching session with one of the pilot partners. So if you want to continue and ask some questions and get some pointers on where to go from here, send an email to my colleague Nicole. On this email, we will also share the slides afterwards. And then we have the last bit is some free training materials to help you get started. So if you follow the QR code here, you can get access to all the materials. Again, we will share this afterwards as well. And We have an upcoming webinar on Thursday, the 28th of May, at the same time as today, which will be about these systems in terms of takeaway and home delivery. So if you haven't already signed up, please feel free to do so. We are hosting a similar webinar as this today. So scan the QR code or go to Gate 21's website to link. But for now, thank you all. Thank you, the four of you in the great panel, for your input and your participations today. It was great having you and all of us here at Gate 21. We are happy that you participated, and we look forward to see all the new reuse systems out there. So thank you, for today. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.